Hello, I'm Hollylynne Lee, and I'm here today with Kaycie Maddox, and she is the director of high school mathematics at one of the regional centers in Georgia. And what is the name of that center?
It's Northeast Georgia RESA.
Okay.
RESA is a regional education service agency. There are 16 of them around the state. Every school district in the state is a member of one. We are kind of the professional learning arm of the Georgia Department of Education.
Oh, great.
And our office is right outside of Athens, where the University of Georgia is.
Okay. All right. And so in that role, you work with a lot of high school teachers?
Yes, I help with 21 high schools in the area. Though I'm not always in every high school. I often offer courses or learning communities for those teachers, so that I have more of a regional participation. But I also do coaching cycles in schools, and so currently I'm in 3 school districts every month in their high schools doing coaching cycles with all their high school teachers.
Oh, that is great.
High school math teachers,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So not only are you connecting with the teachers, but you're in their classrooms and you actually see what's
Absolutely.
happening, and you're able to provide that support in the
Yes.
moment in the field.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So, math teachers get the privilege of teaching all areas in mathematics that include statistics.
Yes.
So, what excites you about that possibility or that reality?
Well, there are several reasons that's pretty exciting. First of all, I think that statistics takes the theory that they're learning in mathematics in their algebra course in particular, and in the geometry standards that they have, and really puts a realistic, real-life spin on them. We keep talking about using realistic examples and using contextualized situations
Yeah.
to make the mathematics come to life. Well, what better way to do that than the statistics? It gets a little messier with the statistics, but you need to know the pure math to make the statistics come to life then. And then you deal
Yeah.
with the variability
Okay.
and the inference. And I find that students are totally engaged when we're doing statistics. Now, not if you're doing it in the dry, old-fashioned professorial type of way. But if they're involved in the investigations, they're gathering their own data, they're giving meaning to that data, it just lends itself perfectly to that.
Oh,
And so
great.
it's very often students are totally engaged in the statistics part.
So, as you're working with teachers and they're learning some new ideas about the statistics, they're gaining their confidence, and they're learning to do the statistical investigations, what are the challenges that they face?
Well, statistical thinking is different than mathematical thinking.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
In mathematics, I feel like I did that for. I've been doing that for 37 years
yeah.
now. I am after an answer. And real often I'm real happy with just an answer, rather than even formulating a question, because we may not all be pursuing the same ideas when we look at statistics.
Right, right. If you have a large data set, there could be lots of questions that could be asked of that data set.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then this idea of, once I have gathered my data and analyzed the data, there is another step of interpretation and proper interpretation. And so those are some of the challenges that I know as a mathematics educator I faced as I began to teach statistics.
Yeah.
I needed to learn how to go further and be more specific. One of the tools that we often use now is take the context and ask students, it comes from 3-act tasks.
Yeah.
What do you notice? What do you wonder? To get them to, that's that low threshold,
yeah.
get them to look closely at the task. And oftentimes they'll wonder a lot of different really good ideas, and I'm hearing teachers, as they use those, describe those wonders that students have, those questions that they have, the question of interest that the teacher has may not be among those, but she's having to give, or he's having to give homage to all these other questions
Right.
that could happen. But we really want to focus on this.
Yeah.
And so I find that that's very helpful for teachers to use notice and wonder,
Yeah.
to guide them. Not only does it help students have access to the task itself, but it really helps teachers to focus on what are we after, and
Right.
what are we trying to do.
Right, right. Yeah, and learn little bit about when students look at a context or look at a task, what are their natural entry points?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes, of course, what we phrase as a question is not really a very good statistical question. So that gets us, when I'm working with the teachers themselves, all right, this is what we're curious about, but could we make it
a statistical
question,
Yeah.
one that we can actually investigate?
Yeah,
And,
no, and that's really important. And I think it's oftentimes we can think about asking the good statistical question that drives our investigation, but then oftentimes the method that we're going to go about as far as investigating it might include, for example, a survey.
Absolutely.
Well, then you have to phrase questions to measure things in your survey, and it's easy to get confused about the two different kinds of questions.
Absolutely.
That there's these measurement questions, and then there's the asking the question that drives your investigation that you're
Absolutely.
continually going back to.
Again, that part for a mathematics teacher is, I think, certainly not one that is beyond them, but it's just not been something that's been
It's a different
important
way
to
of
their
thinking.
task. Yes,
Yeah.
to the task of teaching high school mathematics typically.
Right, right. So, they have to fit all of this into a very already packed curriculum. How do you advise that they do that?
With anything that we think is important, if we go ahead and put it on our calendars
Mm-hmm.
and then plan around it
Yeah.
and stick to it, then it might happen. Typically, with the teachers I work with, the statistics units are already on the curriculum map at the end of the course.
Lots of the states that I have looked at, I think that tends to
Do
be,
that,
it
yes.
tends to be true. Not always. There's
Well,
a tendency.
and I'm not sure the thinking in that,
Right.
but we do have the freedom to rearrange that curriculum map.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you're studying mathematics that's going to support then what you do in the statistics unit, so I can understand putting it off, but that's why a pacing guide is very important. But of course, all kinds of things come in that will infringe on your ability to stick to that pacing guide.
Right.
But if you go ahead and say, no, these are the dates that we're doing our statistics unit, if possible to pull it closer, even if it's not at the beginning of the year, that's fine.
Right.
But maybe right after Christmas break or something to that,
Right.
to that extent.
Mid-semester.
That you'll actually get to it and then be able to use it well. Another idea, we see all of the standards that are there. They're actually there in clusters. And if we think about teaching standards in clusters, as the intention was when standards were written, at
Yeah.
least for the Common Core, that thinking about teaching them in clusters helps us keep from this bulleted list, and it elongates everything.
Right.
I find for the statistics unit, if I look at them in clusters, I have to think about them and have a deeper
an integrated
understanding
way.
of how to teach this. I had one group of teachers a number of years ago not a number of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that planned their statistics unit around questions. And in doing that, we're finding resources that had already found resources that would help them address those questions, and all of the statistics came from within there.
Yeah.
They did, most of them successfully did that, but that was a scary prospect for them because it's just a different way of teaching than they were used to.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. I mean, we want to be able to look at, and yes, we want to cluster the things that are in statistics and probability, but there might be opportunities that you're also hitting some of the standards and objectives that are in algebra or in the number and
Absolutely.
operation at the same time that you're doing those. And so being able to see, if yes, I'm going to dedicate 3 or 4 days to this task and this investigation, but in this, I need to make sure that I hit these different things.
We study in 9th grade Algebra 1, we study everything linear
Yeah.
and functions. Why
Yeah.
don't we go and
Right.
do scatter plots right after that and do
Yeah.
the least squares regression line?
Yeah.
It would make sense to do all of that at one time.
Right. Yeah, and being able to say, okay, well, when we're talking about a function, it's a deterministic kind of model.
Absolutely.
And when we're looking at the scatter plot and the data, well, there's some error. There's some variability.
variability,
There's
it
some
makes a big
variability around this
difference,
line.
yes.
And even though we're putting a line there, we're not saying that's the line.
Right. Well, and I think
It's
that one thing is very difficult as we talk about it, that's a line of prediction.
Right.
And then how well it predicts is another
Yeah.
option for you. And so Again, ideas that math teachers haven't always had to grapple with before.
Right.
That make the line
Right.
make sense.
Yeah, yeah, that the purpose of the lesson isn't just to find the line and you're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.